really like how I kind of made an impromptu green month, so let's keep it going with the Winsor Newton Apple Green India ink. What's up guys, I'm J-Rod at battlebrawlerproductions, new channel. Welcome. We craft amazing comic book style illustrations, a variety of different mediums. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we're continuing our slightly impromptu green month with the Winsor Newton Apple Green India ink. Now this is a half fluid ounce that sells for $5.99 to $6.99 depending on where you go, and this is one of 26 colors that Winsor Newton makes, though they only make 4 of those colors in a full-size 1 fluid ounce inkwell, that being the black India ink, the non-waterproof black India ink, gold, and silver, while all the other colors are going to be these half ones. That does seem a little bit overpriced considering the fact you can get a full fluid ounce for just $1 or $2 more, mainly someone like Dr. P.H. Martin's. But the thing about Winsor Newton is that their India inks are so high quality, they're so pigmented, they layer so well. I'm always happy to pay that little bit extra for them because of their quality. Taking a look at the box, we see that has a really nice little illustration of an apple, but if we pop it open, we can see we have our little inkwell with, again, the same illustration that's on box, but instead of all the different colors, we have just the color of the ink, so very nice. Super solid glass inkwell. I love these things, so let's go ahead and get our sketchbook out. Really like this shade of green. It's a little different from the brilliant green that we looked at a few weeks ago, and it's definitely lighter than the emerald, but yeah, I really like that shade of green. I like greens that have a little bit of yellow to them, or they're just really dark and emerald. There's really no in between. But yeah, I really like the flow of this on my dip pen. This is a Speedball 512, one of my favorite nibs. Let's go ahead and do a quick test with our quill. Now, for those of you who don't know, one of the main reasons you may want to use a colored ink could just be some colored line art, similar to how Disney used to use colored outlines on some of their older animations, or if you want to just use them to color and do watercolor techniques that you don't want to lift up or blend, because colored ink is semi-transparent. Well, all colored ink except for acrylics, because those are opaque. But yeah, look at that. Really good solid flow. Really like what we're getting here. And again, I like this shade of green. It's really nice. Unlike the brilliant green that was definitely darker when we used it with our pen, this one here is definitely keeping that lightness that this had with its brush. So I'm really curious to see how this is going to behave with our brush, and you can see right here we're just squiggling a couple random lines. Really good flow. That's something you want to look for in an ink, is the flow. For me though, the main thing with a colored ink is how does it work with my brush, how does it feel. Now for those of you who don't know, this is a Klinsky Mimic. This is one of my favorite brushes, and this is a round 3. So let's go ahead and do a quick little, yeah. I really like how that looks. Like, look at that. That is a beautiful shade of green. Again, it's very similar to the brilliant green, but it's just a little bit different. In fact, I'm going to go in and I'm going to add a little bit of water to water it down. So this would be like for an ink wash if you would do this with black ink. You can see that gradient. We could still, of course, do this because the ink is wet. I'm going to clean my brush, and then I want to get a dip from the brilliant green to see how that directly compares. Yeah, it's just that lighter shade of green. I really like how that looks though, especially the two together. That honestly just looks beautiful, especially in person. On camera, it's not as clear as I would like. I'm gonna see if I can edit this clip a little bit to try and show you closer to the difference of these two. But yeah, this looks beautiful. I love how these two inks look together. It's definitely like in the same family of green, but much lighter. So that's something that some people often wonder about with the Winsor Newton inks. Are they just the exact same color? Are they different? No, they are very different. They have a good range of greens, and we have one more green to look at after this too. They have 4 greens. So let's get another dip. This one here is the emerald green, which was our darker green, and you can see right there, very different from these. So I'm really excited to see how the viridian green we'll take a look at next week looks, because yeah, I really like these green inks. Again, green is not one of my favorite colors, but it's a color I really like to use, and this ink right here is super fun. It continues the high quality, really smooth experience that the other color inks have. Really nice, very solid. It is semi-transparent, so if I was to do a black line right here, you would be able to see through the ink. These are really nice, especially like here. You can create a really cool gradient if you want to take advantage. Actually, you know what? They're still wet, so here, let's go ahead and create a gradient. And that's the beauty of colored inks, is while they're wet, you can just do watercolor techniques with them. When they dry, they stay dry, but I really like to use colored inks with watercolor so I could create really cool effects. But yeah, we could create a really cool gradient between them. See, that's cool. I really like that. And I really like this shade of green. But we've dabbled a little bit, so let's go ahead and dive as we do our full illustration. I figured we would keep the trend going from what we did last week by inking some older pencils of my villains with the other green bad guy I have, Envy. I'm really excited because we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to do some inking and some line art with this ink, and then we'll finish it up next week with the last Winsor Newton green ink. So let's go ahead and get into that super time lapse. Inking this piece was super fun, very relaxing, and pretty quick since we're just doing the line art, and we'll be finishing this piece up next week with the different washes. And I really like using colored inks. Something I have to say is that colored inks are basically just a permanent liquid watercolor, and that's the best way to think about it, because you can do all your watercolor techniques with them, except for the techniques that involve you reactivating. Besides that, I pretty much treat my colored inks like watercolor, but I really like to take advantage of their permanent drying nature by trying to do some really cool stuff like doing some dry brushing or having the brush strokes really show and layer to create a cool graphical feel. Overall, I really like how this piece came out. I love how the ink performed. Super fun, super nice, very clean, very smooth. This was a joy to use. Now, while I didn't use a brush and I was pretty much just using my dip and my quill exclusively for this piece, I have to say with the test that we did, this is also a really good ink to use with a brush. Guys, I love this ink and I really recommend it. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we have right now, finish it up next week, and do my closing thoughts on the Apple Green India ink. And we're done, and I really like what we have. It may not look like much, but it's really going to come to life in next week's video when we take a look at the Winsor Newton Viridian ink. But let's go ahead and put all this to the side to do my closing thoughts on the Apple Green ink. What's going to be an absolute no surprise to all of you guys watching, I absolutely love this ink. Super good, super high quality. It continues the trend that Winsor Newton has set for itself, and I absolutely love how this ink performed, and I love the shade of green. This is actually probably my favorite shade of green that Winsor Newton makes, mainly because for me personally, I really like greens that have a little bit of yellow to them. And this just has a little bit more yellow than the emerald and the brilliant green, so I really like how it offers that. Just like the other Winsor Newton color inks we've looked at, they are super smooth with a quill, dip, brush, and on top of that, they have a really solid light fastness, meaning the lifespan of your piece is going to last much longer than any other colored ink out there. And I'm gonna rate this dude a solid 8 out of 10 on my scale of 1 to 10, mainly because they are colored inks, and I know they're not the most versatile, especially compared to the black counterpart, and also the fact that, again, you aren't getting a full fluid ounce. I would really wish that they made all their colors in the full fluid ounce, because that would be really cool, but I'll settle with this. So overall, I think that 8 is really good. In fact, you know what? Because of how much I like this green, I'm going to bump it up to a 9. I'm going to say a 9 out of 10 because this is a really nice shade of green. That's my rating on this ink. Stay tuned for next week while I take a look at the Viridian ink. Really excited about that. So I'll have a look at all 4 of the Winsor Newton Green India inks. As always, I thank you all so much for watching and enjoying the video. If you stayed it this far, you can also check out the description down below where I do have links to my ArtStage account. You can purchase digital downloads along with physical posters of my artwork. It's a good way to help out the channel if you want to go a step further than just hitting like and subscribe. And you can also do that if you like animation and comic art, because that's what we're all about here. Thank you again so much for watching, and you guys have a great and wonderful day. Remember, I'm J-Rod at BattleBrawlerproductions. I draw pound on so.